The smell of freshly baked cookies during the holidays is truly magical, isn't it? In today's video, I am sharing 4 of our most loved almond flour cookies that will bring that cozy holiday feeling right into your kitchen. These cookies are a game changer, rich in flavor, not overly sweet, and just as satisfying as traditional cookies, but without the extra sugar and flour. All of the cookies I'll be sharing in this video are makeup friendly, gluten-free, and naturally sweetened, either with maple syrup or coconut sugar. I have been baking with almond flour for over 10 years and have learned so much along the way. After all this experimenting, I can confidently say these cookies are my go-to and a holiday family tradition. Throughout this video, I will share my best tips and tricks so you can get that perfect results every time. If you've ever wanted to try your hand at baking cookies with almond flour, keep watching. First up, we have the classic chocolate chip cookie. This one is a fan favorite because it has the taste and texture of the classic chocolate chip cookie without the sugar overload. It's easy to make with just 6 basic ingredients and comes together in one bowl literally in minutes. You can even make the dough ahead, portion it out, and freeze it for later. Oh, and it's vegan. So if you're looking for an egg-free cookie, which is a question I get a lot, this recipe is for you. Before we dive into the recipe, let's quickly chat about the star ingredient in all of these cookies, almond flour. One quick tip for anyone new to almond flour. Because of its natural oils, it keeps cookies tender and moist, so you don't have to add too much to the dough. These days, most supermarkets carry almond flour in their gluten-free baking section, so it should be easy to find. But if you live in an area where it is hard to get your hands on, we've got you covered. A while back, I made a detailed video showing how you can make almond flour at home using raw unsalted almonds. You can find that video link somewhere here. As for brands, I have tested quite a few over the years, and my favorite one is this sifted almond flour from Blue Diamond. It is consistently great, has no funky odor, which can be a problem with some brands, and works great in all of my almond flour recipes. I usually buy it on Amazon, which is also the most cost-effective option, at least in my area. You can of course use any almond flour brand you like. Now, one other question I get asked often, can I use almond meal? Almond flour and almond meal look similar but have one big difference. Almond flour is made by grinding blanched almonds. If you're not familiar, blanching almonds means letting them sit in water, then removing their skins. Then, to make almond flour, manufacturers grind and sift skinless almonds until they have a flour-like consistency. On the other hand, almond meal is made by grinding almonds with the skin on. When it comes to using it in your baking, think of almond flour as the lighter sibling of almond meal. Removing the skins means the cookies bake up softer and lighter. It's a small difference, but it changes the whole texture. Now, the answer to the question is that you can make these cookies with almond meal, but they'll be denser and not as airy. They'll still taste delicious, but the almond flour version will have that lighter, more tender feel. To make the chocolate chip cookie into a bowl, we'll add 2 cups or 220 grams of almond flour, half a teaspoon of kosher salt, and a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda. We'll stir it to combine and break up any clumps. Then we'll add in a 1/4 cup of melted and cooled coconut oil and a 1/4 cup of maple syrup. At first, it may feel like there isn't enough liquid, but the dough will come together nicely as you mix. Next, we'll add in a half a cup of chocolate chips. In terms of a brand to use, I love this Enjoy Life semi-sweet mini chips made with cane sugar, but any mini chocolate chip you have on hand would work in this recipe. If you don't have mini chocolate chips, give the ones you have a quick rough chop to make them smaller. To portion them, we'll use a cookie scoop to scoop the dough onto a parchment light sheet pan. I'll include the cookie scoop I'm using in the link in the description, but if you do not have one of these, you can also drop the dough from a tablespoon. Keep in mind, we're aiming for about 1.5 tablespoons of dough per cookie, and it's best to arrange them about 1 inch apart from each other. We'll gently press down on each cookie to flatten and then place a whole almond in the center of the cookie. This is an optional step. I like it because it tells people what it's made of, but if you don't want to deal with it, you can omit it. We'll then transfer it to a preheated 350 or 177 Celsius degree oven and bake for 12 to 14 minutes, rotating the pan halfway through for even baking or until lightly browned on top. We'll then let them cool for a few minutes and then transfer them onto a wire rack to cool completely. Now, one thing to note about any cookie made with almond flour is that it tastes best on the day it's made. So if you're not planning on baking it right away, you can scoop it onto a sheet pan, freeze, and then store it in a freezer bag or a container for up to 2 months. And the good news is that you don't need to thaw it. You can bake it right before you're ready to serve it. When baking from frozen, I would just add a minute or two to the baking time. Our second recipe, gingerbread cookies, is a Christmas classic and one of the most popular on Foolproof living. While this cookie is not overly sweet, it is the perfect combination of spices that work beautifully together. Plus, it has a pillowy texture that melts in your mouth. To make it, we place 2 cups or 220 grams of almond flour, half a teaspoon of baking soda, half a cup or 76 grams of coconut sugar, 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon, half a teaspoon of ground ginger, quarter teaspoon of allspice, and a pinch of salt in the bowl of a food processor. We'll pulse it 3 to 4 times to mix. Then we'll add in 2 tablespoons of melted and cooled coconut oil, 3 tablespoons of molasses, 1 large egg, and a teaspoon of vanilla extract. We'll process it for about 15 to 20 seconds or until a dough forms. We'll transfer the dough into a bowl, cover it, and let it sit in the fridge for 30 minutes. Now, I know it's not fun to wait, but do not skip the chilling time, as the time in the fridge helps solidify the fat in cookies, which helps them spread less as they bake in the oven. Also, I think it's important to note that this is a very sticky dough and that is intentional. Do not be tempted to add in more almond flour. When ready to bake, we'll remove the dough from the fridge and use a small cookie scoop to portion it out on a baking sheet. It is best to put them about 2 inches apart as they will spread during the baking process. We'll gently press on each cookie to slightly flatten before popping it into a preheated 350 Fahrenheit or 177 Celsius degrees oven and bake it for 10 to 13 minutes, rotating the sheet pan halfway through. When done baking, we'll let the almond flour gingerbread cookies cool down for a few minutes and then transfer them onto a wire rack to cool before serving. Like the previous cookie and the rest of the cookies I'm featuring in this video, you can freeze them after portioning them out and then store them in an airtight container for up to 2 months. When you're ready to bake them, just pop them in an oven from frozen, but add a minute or 2 to the baking time. Our third recipe, almond flour peanut butter cookies, is for lovers of that peanut butter and sea salt combination. It's soft and pillowy on the inside with a slight chew on the outside, and that sea salt on top adds the perfect crunch. To make it, we'll place 1.5 cups or 178 grams of almond flour, 1 3/4 teaspoon of baking powder, half a teaspoon of sea salt, a quarter cup of unsalted and unsweetened peanut butter, 1 cup or 152 grams of coconut sugar, 2 room temperature large eggs, half a teaspoon of vanilla extract in the bowl of a food processor. We'll pulse it 8 to 10 times in 1-second intervals just until all the ingredients are thoroughly mixed, stopping and scraping the sides of the bowl a few times. Now, we don't want to let this run for too long. Just like the gingerbread cookie we made earlier, this dough is very sticky as well. If you process it nonstop, it could potentially clog your food processor. Also, it's easier for the food processor to do its thing when you start with the dry ingredients at the bottom, so be sure to follow the sequence of ingredients. If you prefer your peanut butter cookies with chocolate chips, I recommend transferring the batter into a bowl and folding a half a cup of chocolate chips into it before portioning them out. Since we made one with chocolate earlier, I will leave it out for this cookie. Using a cookie scoop or 2 tablespoons, scoop out the batter onto a baking sheet lined with parchment, leaving 2 inches between each cookie. If you're planning to bake the whole batter, you will need 2 sheet pans. If not, you can freeze and store the cookies in the freezer like we did with the other ones. Using the back of a spoon or slightly wet fingers, lightly flatten the cookies and sprinkle them with a generous pinch of sea salt and pop them in a preheated 350 Fahrenheit or 177 Celsius oven for 13 minutes or until they spread slightly, rotating halfway through the process. We'll let them cool for a few minutes and then transfer them onto a wire rack to cool completely. Our final cookie recipe, almond flour tahini cookies, takes me back to my Middle Eastern roots. This simple simple cookie is vegan, made with only 5 basic ingredients, and comes together in one bowl literally in minutes. If you're a fan of the nutty and earthy flavors of sesame paste known as tahini, this cookie is a must-try. To make it into a bowl, we'll place 2 cups or 220 grams of almond flour, half a teaspoon of kosher salt, and a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda. We'll give it a good whisk to ensure it is thoroughly mixed. Then we'll add in 1/3 of a cup of tahini and 1/3 of a cup of maple syrup and mix well until incorporated. While you're mixing, at first it will feel like there's not enough liquid in the batter, but as you continue, you'll see it come together. Using a cookie scoop, we'll portion it onto a baking sheet lined with parchment paper, ensuring that they are an inch apart from one another. Now, alternatively, if you do not have a cookie scoop, you can measure out about 2 tablespoons of cookie dough and roll it between the palms of your hands. It is optional, but I love sprinkling each cookie with a small amount of toasted sesame seeds on top for extra crunch. We'll pop that in a preheated 350 Fahrenheit or 177 Celsius oven and bake for 12 to 14 minutes until lightly brown on top, rotating the baking sheet halfway through for even browning. When done, we'll let it cool for 5 minutes and then transfer them to a wire rack to cool completely. A couple of things to note here. 1, not all tahini are created equal. There are many good brands out there, but my favorite one is this one, Sohm. Regardless of the brand you use, it is imperative that you stir it well and make sure it's not clumpy and the oils are distributed evenly throughout the paste before using it in the recipe. 2, you can substitute honey for maple syrup. Obviously, it won't be vegan anymore, but it's a good swap. You can use the same amount, but keep in mind that your cookies will be a bit sweeter, they will look a bit darker, and I would also shorten the baking time by a minute or 2. 3, like the other cookies, they're best on the day that they're baked. So if you're not planning to serve them all, feel free to place them on a baking sheet, freeze for an hour, and then store them in a freezer bag or an airtight container for up to 2 months. When ready to bake, there is no need to thaw, just follow the recipe, but add a minute or 2 to the baking time. On a final note, if you're planning to bake any of these almond flour cookies for a cookie exchange or to give someone you love, it is important to keep 2 things in mind. 1, it's imperative that they are thoroughly cooled prior to storing or packaging them by placing them on a wire rack. If you do not have a wire rack, you can slide the cookies onto a cutting board while they're still on the parchment papers to stop the baking process. 2, again, they taste better on the day that they're baked. However, if they're stored in an airtight container in the fridge, they will still taste fresh and have a cool, shortbread-like satisfying texture. If your definition of a delicious cookie is warm, you can pop them in a low-heat oven for a minute or 2 to warm them up the next day. There you have it, friends, 4 easy-to-make, minimally sweetened, gluten-free cookies made with almond flour. I make these during Christmas every year, serve some to my family, and give the rest to our friends and neighbors, and everyone loves them. As always, the links for each recipe is in the description below. Feel free to check them out and leave a comment if I can answer any questions. And finally, if you're looking for more almond flour inspiration, head on over to foolproofliving.com. We have plenty of almond flour recipes for cakes, waffles, biscuits, muffins, and more. If you end up making any of these cookies, leave a comment, take a picture, and share it with me. I love seeing your creations. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in my next video. Okay, so you see, I mess up. Doesn't look very creamy yet. Plastic chocolate chip. With almond feel. Oh my gosh.